All right, this is sixth grade math, chapter 2.1. I'm on page 59 in the book. So if you will follow along with me on that. Remember, on our podcasts, we take notes on vocabulary, key concepts, and we do the guided practice together. So let me see if I can get my pen fired up here. So here's our 2-column notes, and it's a, I don't know, I think on the vocabulary here we'll just kind of do some reference points, some benchmarks probably to help us. I'm about the middle of the page on page 59. It says, a small paper clip is about 1 inch long. An inch is a customary unit of length. So all of these right here come from the customary system, which is the system that we use in the United States. These right here, these down here, come from the metric system. We do use the metric system a little bit, but the metric system is used more worldwide, and scientists use metric system a lot, and the customary system is still used by us. So inches, let's just do some benchmarks with them. Inches is about a small paper clip. A foot is has 12 inches in it, equals 1 foot. A yard, there's 3 feet in 1 yard. A mile, there's 5,280 feet in a mile, and 1,760 yards in a mile. So they have them listed from the smallest measurement here, inch, which is the smallest, to mile, which is the biggest in this situation. All right, so millimeters, and I believe that starts over on the other page. Millimeters are the metric units, and the millimeter, at least for common things for a millimeter, one thing I use for a millimeter, your book says the thickness of a dime. I usually do the tip of your pencil. Actually, the tip of your pencil lead. Really teeny tiny. The centimeter is about the width of your finger. A meter is about, your book says the height of a chair. I say about the width of the doorway. And a kilometer is about, that one's a little tougher for me to do. A kilometer is about 1,000 meters. What can we use as a benchmark for a kilometer? It's less than a mile, a kilometer is, and you know, well, I don't know, it's pretty tough. I know that a kilometer is, boy, I'm really bad because you know we don't use metrics very much. A kilometer has 1,000 meters in it, which if you've seen a meter stick, that's 1,000 meter sticks going side by side. So I'm trying to think as far as maybe we can relate it to a football field. I'm going to think about from here, from the school to the, exactly, maybe the school to the highway, the grocery store, might be about a kilometer. So let's go on and see what's happening in this one. Okay, example number 1, which is on the bottom of page 59. It says, find the length of the caterpillar to the nearest inch. So they give you this picture of this caterpillar. Notice the caterpillar is lined up here at 0, or you put 0. Some let me see if I can erase that so you can see some rulers. This 0 is right here on this ruler. You don't put it at the end of the ruler right here. So you have to be really careful. Some rulers start with 0 on the end, so you have to be careful. And this one says it's between, notice it's between 1 and 2 inches, and you do it just like you would round. And when you round numbers, you find that this is bigger than half, so it would round up to about 2 inches. So measuring to the nearest inch. So the caterpillar is about 2 inches long. So guided practice, and you guys have to do this. I'm not going to do it for you. Measure the length of your math book to the nearest inch, and your math book is here. Let me draw a picture of your math book right here. Okay, and it says math on it. Okay, the length, I want you to measure this distance from here to here. Okay, so go get a ruler. Pause it right now, this video, and go get a ruler and measure your math book right now. So go do that. Don't cheat. Okay, you line up on the end, and you see which is you're measuring to the nearest inch. Make sure you're using the inches on for your book. All right, example 2, using metric units of length. We've talked about the metric ones. That's the centimeters and the millimeters. Probably should write those on the top of page 60. I should have written those back on your vocabulary. So add these to your vocabulary. 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. 1 meter equals 100 meters, or 1,000 millimeters. And 1 kilometer, km is kilometer, equals 1,000 meters. And I'm getting these on the top of page 60. So add these to your notes. I know it's not a key concept box, but those are vocabulary, so add those to it. Okay, find the length of the seashell to the nearest millimeter. So you'll notice this time we're using the side of the ruler that has centimeters, and you'll notice all of those little teeny tick marks right here that you see. You see all of these? Those are millimeters, and there's 10 of them in 1 centimeter. So we go 10, 20, 30, 40, and it's looking like it's about right there. So that's about halfway. So 4 would be 40 of them because there's 10 in each, and that would be about 45. So since it's millimeters, that's about 45 millimeters. So choose an appropriate measuring tool for the length and explain your reasoning. So we want to know the width of a calculator. So what would you use to measure the width of a calculator? Would you get well, here on the side of page 60 in the margin, here's some common. You could use a foot ruler, which is the regular rulers like we have. You can use a centimeter ruler, which usually is on the other side of the foot ruler. You could use a yardstick. Okay, you could use a meter stick, or you could use a tape measure. Those are the most common things that we measure with. Okay, and usually these are going to be combined together. Usually a yardstick and a meter stick is just a little bit longer than a yardstick. I have meter sticks in my room, and then a tape measure, a lot of times you can get those any size. I know I used to measure the soccer fields, and we used to use a 300-foot measuring tape, so that one was really big. We had to reel it in with a dial. So we're back up here to A. We want to know what are we going to use to measure the width of a calculator? Is there any reason to break out a tape measure to measure the width of your calculator? You would probably just use a regular ruler right here to measure the width of the calculator. How about the length of a bus? We probably aren't going to take a little teeny ruler. Okay, here, let me draw a picture of the bus. Okay, here's the school bus right here. Okay, and here's you right here with your little ruler. Are you going to go up there and measure how many of those little rulers would go the whole side of the bus, or would you maybe get out a tape measure? I would get out a tape measure, and I would hold it here, and I would pull it and string and see how long the bus is. So hey, not a bad looking bus right there. Look, see if I can give it a steering wheel. Here's the driver. Whoops, gotta have both hands on the wheel. And here's the seats on the bus. Here's all the rowdy kids hanging on the bus. These are my stick figures. These are how my stick figures sit down. So, and they're all happy riding along. All right. So they think we should use a ruler to measure the calculator, and they think we should use a tape measure to measure the bus. So I agree. All right, measure the width of your math book now. So here's our math book. Again, math. They want you to measure the width, which is from here to here. Okay, this time to the nearest centimeters. So make sure you're using the centimeter side. So just pause it, go get the ruler, measure it, write down the answer. Measure the thickness of a quarter to the nearest millimeter. So hopefully you have a quarter. A quarter is, I don't know if a penny, a quarter, if they're all about the same. So what is the thickness of a quarter to the nearest millimeter? So you can take any coin if you want, if you have it, and then just put it up against a ruler. Remember centimeters, it's like 0 to 1 with the centimeters, and you have all those little marks in between. A millimeter is just one of those little teeny marks. So measure that, put down. Explain the appropriate measuring tool for the length. Explain your reasoning. Okay, what would we measure for the length of our pencil? Well, I don't think I need to break out a tape measure. I think I would just use, for this one, a foot ruler. Why? Because a pencil is small. Okay? The height of a bookcase isn't huge as far as size, so I would probably measure the height of a bookcase with either a yardstick, if I had one, or a meter stick. But I also could see using a tape measure. I have tape measures at home and I use those to measure things. So I would use any of those three. I don't think I would use just a regular ruler. It's too small. So this one says you could use a foot ruler or a centimeter ruler. That's for your pencil. And number 5 says you should use a tape measure because it's probably greater than a yard or a meter. And I think I would agree with that. Okay, example 4, choosing appropriate units. So we want to choose the appropriate customary unit and metric unit for the length and explain our reasoning. So the distance from Boston to Chicago. Well, if I say how far is it from Boston to Chicago, and you have all those measurements, you know that here we have inch, foot, how come my brain just went blank? Inch and feet and yards. Sorry, forgot yards. And miles. And in metrics we have millimeters, I'm going to abbreviate them, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. Okay, Boston and to Chicago is pretty far distance, so I'm going to use the biggest measurements that I have. I would measure those in miles and kilometers because Boston to Chicago is a long distance. Okay, the height of a full-grown tree, well, I would not assume that a tree is going to be a mile high, so I would probably use feet or yards for that, and in the customary, and in the metric I would probably use meters. So let's see what they say. The distance from Boston to Chicago is much greater than 1 yard and much greater than 1 meter, so use miles or kilometers. I agree with that. The height of a tree is much greater than either 1 inch or 1 centimeter. The height is also much less than either 1 mile or 1 kilometer, so use feet, yards, or meters. Good deal. So the guided practice, number 4. Guided practice 4, number 4. Choose the appropriate customary unit and metric unit for the length and explain your reasoning. Okay, the height of a 2-year-old child. Obviously, we wouldn't use miles. We wouldn't use kilometers. I would say for a 2-year-old, we probably, there's a possibility, depending, if it was me, we would measure them in inches because I was probably pretty little as a 2-year-old, but we could probably get into feet. You know, some 2-year-olds might be 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall, whatever. I don't know if 2-year-olds, I don't know. It's been a while since I've had a 2-year-old. The width of a baseball card. Well, we know a baseball card is pretty small. It's just a little teeny thing like this right here. So the width of a baseball card, what I would use is probably centimeters in the metric system, and I would probably use inches in the customary system. So let's see what they say. The height of a 2-year-old is less than a yard and less than a meter, so you'd use inches or centimeters. The width of a baseball card is less than a foot and less than 30 centimeters, so use inches or centimeters. And I would agree with those. Estimating lengths using benchmarks. Estimate the height in meters of the door below. Measure to check. Before I do example number 5, though, let's talk about the key concept box on the bottom of page 61. There's some key concepts on page 61. These are benchmarks, and they kind of go through the same thing, and write these down. So for customary, okay, benchmark for inches would be a small paper clip. And if people use other benchmarks, you can use others if you want. This is just what the book suggests. A foot is the distance from your elbow to your knuckle on your arm. And for a yard, it's the width of a door. Okay, so if you're not sure, you just kind of, you know about what the size of a small paper clip is, so you can go, okay, I wonder how many small paper clips it would go to measure something. So same thing with the foot, how many distances between your elbow and your knuckle, and then the width of a door. So for metric, the book suggests that for millimeters, we use the thickness of a dime. And remember, I was using just the tip of my pencil lead. The centimeter, we're going to use the width of your little finger. And a meter, they're using the height of a chair. And I also use the width of a doorway. Meter and a yard are really close together in size. Meter's just a little bit bigger. So you're writing those key concepts just as benchmarks so you can remember what those are. And so we go back to example 5 now, which is actually on the next page after your key concept on page 62. It says, estimate the height in meters of the door below. So you kind of think, can you think to yourself, I wonder how many chairs we could stack on top of each other as far as the height, since the height we're supposed to measure in meters, the height of a chair is about a meter. How many chairs can we stack up? And you'll see that 2 chairs could stack up about the same size, so you would visualize that it would be about 2 meters. So we measure it with the meter stick, and we agree it's about 2 chairs high, which is about equal to 2 meters. And I'm going to go back. Sorry, there wasn't another one, but if you guys will look back at I'm going to go here. I think that I am still recording. I hope I'm still recording for you guys. The last guided practice, if you would do it, estimate the length to the nearest window in feet. Use the benchmarks on the previous page. So go look at my window, and I want you to estimate its length in feet. And in feet, you're going to use about how many distance is it from your knuckle to your elbow across that window. So hopefully I'm still recording this. Sorry, I had a little glitch at the end. So this is 2.1. We'll see you on 2.2.